Good morning. We're here with Mayor Turner, the mayor of Houston. Thank you for your time, Mayor. We appreciate your opportunity to sit down with us and answer a few questions and bring the community up to date about very critical issues affecting all Houstonians.
Sure.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be with you.
All right. Well, we have a series of questions that we'd like you to address. You can address them as broadly or as you need to, and then we will move on to the next question. Much of has been going on regarding the affordable housing issue, so we'll start there. Affordable housing is important to you. You've made it very clear that affordable housing is important to you. And I guess most of the community wants to know why you decided not to move forward with the Fountain View project.
But let me start off by saying, there is a tremendous need for affordable housing in this city, and there's a tremendous need for affordable housing all over the city. You can't rebuild or build new schools, for example, in neighborhoods, if you don't have the housing in those communities, in those neighborhoods, to populate those schools. And that's one of the reasons why many of the schools in historic, low-income, minority communities have been closed or consolidated because we don't have the population in those schools and we don't have the housing. So we need housing, no question about that, and we need affordable housing throughout the city. But one of the reasons that I said no to the Fountain View project in the Galleria area is that when I looked at this project, it called for 233 units to be built in this multifamily development. It was to build this complex, it was going to cost about $56 million. And when you drill down, that was about $240,000 per unit. That in and of itself didn't kill the deal for me. But when you also look at that, only 10% of the housing, only 23 units of the 233 were going to go for low income, people below the poverty level. That was not persuasive for me. And then on top of that, the developer's fee was going to be close to $6 million. That's not going to poor folk. That's not going to low. That's going to developers and others. So that didn't bode well for me. And even though they were saying, Houston Housing Authority was saying, well, we're going to put this, take the developer's fee and keep it within the Houston Housing Authority, that was not persuasive. So when I looked at the project from a financial point of view, I saw the benefit was going to those who were going to construct the project. They were going to make money from it, but you're using the poor folk in order to justify it being built fair. And so I said no. I didn't say no to affordable housing in quote unquote opportunity districts. I said no to public housing to this particular project, and it didn't start on my watch. So this was like a project that didn't start with me. I didn't help to outline what the priorities were or who was going to be doing what or what sort of the makeup of the units were. I didn't start it, but people were looking for me to take something that that was initiated before I came in office and then push it through. And I would not have minded if I saw the benefits going to the people who needed the housing the most. I did not see it, and I chose not to push something through that I did not originate. Now, having said that, what I said to the Houston Housing Authority, I don't want to move forward on this particular project, but put out an RFP in the same area, in the same district, and let's make it more competitive, and let's see whether or not we can drive down the cost and provide more affordable housing to people who are below the poverty line. And that's what I suggested to them, and we're now moving forward on that. So we'll see what happens. So I said no to that project. And anyone, Chronicle, editorial board wanted to characterize it as me denying opportunities for people in high poverty areas from moving from their neighborhoods to quote unquote opportunity areas like the Galleria, and I was denying their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations and the ability to move up to the economic ladder. Number one, I just categorically reject that whole premise, that in order for kids to have hopes and dreams and to move up the economic ladder, they have to move out of their neighborhoods and go someplace else in order to do that. So that was 1950 thinking. This is 2016.
Right, so it's a new way to think about the issue over past processes. So how do you address the critics who say you succumb to pressure of the homeowners per se versus all the factors you just discussed? How do you address that?
Well, the reality is that when I looked at the finances, okay, when I looked at the number of units that were going to go to people below the poverty line, 23 out of 233, separate and apart from people saying not in my backyard, it didn't fly just on the financial side. It just didn't fly. Okay. Now, if, for example, many more families, many more children coming from families under the poverty line, if they were going to benefit from this project in a very real way, very tangible, and it was quantifiable, justifiable, then I would say, okay, let's move forward. But you're not going to get to second base if you can't get to first base. Okay. So the question was it on the merits? Was this a good deal for low-income families? On the merits. And on the merits, it was not a good deal. So for me, I don't even have to go to the second question. At least get me past the first, I'll deal with the second. And I'm not saying no to housing in this particular district or in the Galleria area or in that District G. I'm saying no to this particular deal. So I may get not in my backyard on the next deal, but it will be not in my backyard on the next deal that I am working on from the very beginning, where I'm seeing many more families below the poverty line that are benefiting, where I can justify the cost and where I feel comfortable. But I'm not going to carry somebody else's water for something that was put together before I got there and then have to fight the finances, have to fight not in my backyard, and all of these other elements at the same time. I think I'm pretty good at what I do, but I also know that if I'm going to fight somebody's fight, let it be one that I created.
Why do you think we haven't had more affordable housing in Houston?
Well, and that's a good question, because look, the Houston Housing Authority hadn't been built an affordable housing complex in 10 years. It's been 10 years. Now, one of the reasons, of course, we have that Supreme Court decision where some of the affordable housing advocates, and I can't think of his name right now, it keeps eluding me, where the Supreme Court has said that, that there are many low-income areas, primarily minority areas, where there have been a lot of multifamily units built, disproportionately built in low-income minority areas than built in other, quote-unquote, opportunity areas. I don't deny that. That is a true statement. And so the argument has been, and HUD, Housing and Urban Development, has said that you must build cities, you must build in these other areas, in these opportunities. Don't just saturate low-income areas. I got that. I don't necessarily disagree with that. But the reality is that we need housing throughout the city of Houston. And one of the reasons why I think we're facing a problem is that the emphasis has been putting housing, affordable housing, in opportunity districts, and the cities haven't put enough investment in helping low minority areas become opportunity districts. So if the standard is put the housing in opportunity districts, do you put the housing where the existing opportunity districts are, or do you work to create opportunity districts where they have never been? And my position is, okay, I've been a lawyer for 36 years. I know the law. To housing advocates, I understand that argument. Okay, opportunity districts. Well, I want to take an Acres home and make that an opportunity district. We can build the housing. The same thing for Sunnyside. The same thing for Fifth Ward, Second Ward, Denver Harbor. Why is it that we cannot invest in neighborhoods that have been overlooked, under-resourced, underserved for decades, and bring them up? And you can use housing, even multifamily housing, in a very creative way that become transformational in creating opportunity districts. And when you put that housing in, you just can't put the housing in and stop. You have to provide all of the other essential services to create an opportunity district. So my intent is, let's bring multifamily housing to many of these low-income minority areas. But when I bring the housing, I also need to be working to bring in retail opportunities, quality grocery stores, make sure that I'm upgrading the neighborhood parks, adding more green space, making sure that we have transit options, creating economic and job opportunities. These areas are underserved, okay? And so it's not just about putting in affordable housing. And people want to just say affordable housing and stop. No. You got to provide affordable housing and all of the other elements, but affordable housing becomes one of the instruments for creating an opportunity district. What I've also said to the Houston Housing Authority, let me take a look at what you're building over in the Galleria area. And my question is, if I take a look at what you're building in the Galleria area, because I know it's going to be very nice, because that's a very nice area, so you're not just going to put anything, even for affordable housing, you're not going to put anything over there. Now, I want to make sure that you're putting the same quality product in these low minority areas, multifamily housing, that you're putting over there. So let me look at your plan. Let me look at your architectural plan. Let me see what amenities you're putting in Independent Heights, or in Acres Home, or in Fifth Ward. And I said, now, what you don't want me to look at what you're building in the Galleria area, and I don't see the same quality in other places. Because even minority areas, communities, neighborhood groups will say no to multifamily housing. They'll say no. But they'll say no because you can't give us something second rate and expect for us to jump up and down and say thank you very much, okay? We deserve the same quality, okay? And if you give the same quality, okay, then housing, even in low-income areas, people will say, okay, fine, we can work with you there. But it just can't be that same stuff that folk have given to our areas over and over again. And when our community look at it, said, oh, here this come again. Because in our community, they want single-family homes too. So it has to be mixed. It has to be single-family homes. It has to be multi-family housing, but you got to have they want to see the garages. In some cases, they want to see the cottages. They don't necessarily want to see that same look. They want to maybe see something that's got some retail in it, something that's transformational. So from my vantage point, I can go with the Supreme Court decision, building opportunity districts. But as the mayor of the city of Houston, I think it's important for me to do everything I can to create opportunity districts all over the city of Houston. The answer certainly is not to say we're only going to build in existing opportunity districts in areas that have been that have been receiving all of the investments for years and years, and then continue to starve those communities and neighborhoods that have been overlooked. As long as I'm mayor, I'm not going to overlook communities that have already been overlooked. I think that's where it would be a failure on my part. And all people would say in neighborhoods that I've come from is similar. He came, he put something on his resume, he left, and hell, when I look around, my community looks the same. Well, I don't want that to be the description that's given to me. So we'll build affordable housing, and we'll build all over the city, but we're going to make sure that no communities are left behind.
All right, sounds good. Shifting gears a little bit, a while back you took on another element of issues. I know with the Super Bowl coming, in our parks, there was a situation involving Kush. How are you taking on, and what is the status of battling Kush in Houston?
Hey man, it's a major issue. It didn't just start yesterday. It didn't just start during my tenure. it's an issue that's been around. Now it has come to the forefront quite a bit, but not just in the city of Houston, Austin, New York, Alabama. I mean, it's all over. But I think what brought it to the forefront in our city, of course, is when you had 16 individuals falling out in Herman Park, and the cameras are all there, and those EMS units just kept coming, and they were taking them to emergency rooms in the medical center. That is what kind of put the picture on it. Okay, and then the very next day, you had some of the same people falling out again from being on Kush. Downtown on McKinney and Main, that was becoming a haven. Peggy's Point, Main and Wheeler, close to Sears down there, that was out of control. Downtown at the public library, the plaza, out of control. It's become a major problem. It's cheap. People go to a store, corner store, convenience store. If they're not selling it over the counter, they're selling it under the counter. They're selling it under the counter. Hell, they know it's wrong. Okay, but people come in, they pull it from under the counter, they sell it. They may sell the bag for $25, and they go on the street and they're selling it for $1 or $2, and they're making plenty. They're making money from it. So. And for those on Kush, they take it. The substance itself 100 times more potent than marijuana. It causes you to hallucinate. You can be more aggressive. Okay, it's a major issue. It's a major problem. So can't ignore it, because to me the worst thing for me is to see men and women. Men and women who are just walking around like zombies, falling out because they're on the Kush. So we had to deal with it, and it's not just in the parks; it's in the neighborhoods. Initially we had the press conference on it, announced that I was identifying 5 sort of hot spots, from Moody Park to the Library Plaza downtown, Peggy's Point, Herman Park, Main and McKinney downtown. We've also added like Guadalupe Plaza Park on the list, and those are the 5 or 6 areas that we've kind of concentrated on. But there are other areas out there, but that's for that end user. Okay, but what I also have said to the city and law enforcement, I don't want to just concentrate on the end user. I want more emphasis placed on those individuals and businesses that are selling and distributing. So now the most of our focus is not on that end user. I mean, you can go find and arrest those people any time of the day. Okay, but that's not going to get to the root of the problem. Got to go to where the money is. Okay? And the money is for those who are selling it, bringing it, distributing it, selling it in the stores. And so there's a major crackdown by law enforcement from all levels, the state, the county, the city, primarily being led by the city, to crack down on the distributors and the sellers. And we're gaining some success from it.
Well, how can the community help? What do you want the community to do to help the police and the forces that are working to stop it?
I was in Northeast Houston the other day at a community meeting, and there was one lady who stood up and said, "Mayor, they're selling that stuff out of this store," and she gave the name of the store and the street that the store is located on, and she said, it was at a PIP meeting, community police, and I mean she gave the name and the address, and she had no problems giving it. I said, "Mayor, they are selling Kush out of there." That's helpful information. Many times the people in our community know more than the police know. Okay, they don't like it, they see it. Well, we need them to be our eyes and ears. They don't even have to give us their name. They don't have to give us their address or anything like that. But the community has to participate in this battle. Look, these are our brothers or our sisters, our moms, dads, children. This is our community, and it literally. I mean, people, they're on it. They're walking around like zombies. and in some cases, they die from this stuff. I mean, it is a highly potent substance. So we need the community's involvement. And then for me, we got to institute some additional strategies, because the worst picture for me, or the one that really pulls at me, is to go, let's say, downtown at the plaza of the library, and you see, 40 to 50, in many cases, brothers, some Hispanics in there, some females, but mostly, males, brothers, that are just hanging out. Peggy's Point, down there by Sears, man. 50 to 60 on the corner. During the day, just, that transit population, that's human capital that's being wasted. So we have to find, look, if we can recycle metal and recycle glass, we have to find a better way of recycling out the human resource. And that's a much more difficult one, because in many cases, if I offer them substance abuse treatment, they say no. If I say, let's go to, let me provide housing, they're saying no. Let's go to some center, they say no. So we're putting together a special lives group of folk who have compassion, who know how to talk to folk, out there on the street, and who can help to persuade and encourage people to go and get the help that we can provide. But that's a battle we can't afford to lose, because these are human beings, but their lives are being wasted away. So.
All right, sounds good. The city's pension issue, it's
we're gonna be here for 6 hours on pensions.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and where we are? Because I know it was an issue in the campaign, back and forth, and it continues to rise up currently in news stories. So kind of let the community know where that is.
It is a high priority. To give put it in some context, the unfunded pension liability has been increasing in the city since 2001. It's now up to about $5.6 billion. Not million, billion with a B as in boy. The cost for pensions for police, fire, municipal workers, the annual cost is about $458 million. In this budget that was just approved, my budget, where we were $160 million short when I came in, but we got that balance, that's gone. But $404 million of that budget go directly to defray pension costs. If we were paying the full annual cost, what we call the ARC payment for pensions, I would have had to add another $54 million. So that's a large sum, and it's going up like this. Okay, it crowds out what I can do for housing and community revitalization and other things. But let me just say to you, the city over a period of time made promises to employees, and employees have kept their deal. In many cases, the city has borrowed from the pensions and done other things are underfunded. Okay, so it's a serious issue. It's not going away. It is a very high priority. Business community demanding change, and quite frankly, employees want a pension system that they can count on. The worst thing you can do is work for the city for 30, 35 years, retire, and then you got an unstable pension system, uncertain pension system, and you get out and retire and your check doesn't come. Okay? You don't want that. Now that's scary. So no mayor since 2001 has solved this problem. Bill White as mayor didn't solve it. Anise Parker didn't solve it. And now it's on my watch. And I've set a very high aggressive goal for myself. And I said that we would get it solved by the end of this year.
2016.
Before you leave 2016, I said we will reach a resolution to present to the legislature in January 2017 for them to approve. That's I'm under no illusions. I'm not naive. That's a tall. It was tough to balance the budget when we were $160 million short, the largest budgetary shortfall since the Great Recession in the city. That was tough. You got that down. This is a much, much, much bigger mountain to climb, because with the budget, all 23 departments for the city are under my control. I can give or I can take away. Okay? My pen, my paper, I control it in large part. So that's one thing. Okay? But the pension system, it's not all under my control. I got to deal with 3 different employee groups, the pension, the fire, that have never moved. They have never moved for any mayor. Okay? They have held the line. And you say pension reform, they have said no. So they've never moved. Police, that's a tough group. Municipal workers, that's another tough group. So I have to convince 3 different pension employee groups to say yay to the changes that I propose, or as we negotiate to come and say yes, yes, yes. And then you got to convince the business community and others that if I reach an agreement with the employee groups, business community have to look at it and say, okay, this is one that we support as well. Okay, so there are a lot of other stakeholders. It's not just me. That's why the mountain is much, much higher. We shall see. I have between, in the last 2 weeks of August, I have 13 different meetings on pensions alone. We shall see.
Can you assure the public that in going to trying to solve the problem, that they will not be called upon to supplement in some way by way of tax or anything of that nature?
Well, let me put it this way. There has to be shared sacrifice by everybody. I am asking the employee groups to sacrifice. And what I mean by that, if I promise you something and you've been an employee for 30, 35 years, and you have been operating on a promise that I made to you, and now you get to the point where you're ready to retire, and I'm saying to you, I want to change that now. You think the employee going to jump up and say, okay, Mayor, thank you very much? Or is that employee going to say, look, I've done my job for 35 years. Mayor, really? Okay. Or employees who have been with the city for 10, 15, 20 years. And now I'm saying, I kind of want to modify things a little bit. I think they're going to jump up and say, okay. And they've been the ones out there filling those potholes. That's a hard ask. And so they have to believe that what I am asking them to do is in their best interest. And what I have said to them, I won't ask you to give up a penny more than what I need to resolve this issue. And what I've said to them is that it is better to work and retire knowing that your retirement check is coming than to hold on to a good thing that you may have. But a year or 2 years from now, I'll write you a letter and say, I can't afford it. I'm sorry. So, I was in the legislature for 26 years. I've been a friend of employees for 26 years. I'm still a friend. But I know my numbers and I know the finances. Okay? And so what I am saying to employees is that I'm going to ask you to give more than what's needed. But like all of us in dealing with our budgets, household budgets, we make adjustments. We make adjustments. We tell our kids all the time, I may have said this, but this is what I have. I know my mom said that to us many, many times. I said, we're going to do this. This is what I got coming in. Son, I'm sorry. But then she would always tag it by saying, tomorrow will be better than today. And she would say, you may not even understand it now. but I'm the one that's got to take care of y'all. So, but over time, I came to understand it. So essentially, what I'm saying to employees, I'm saying, trust me, and I'm saying, if we can work this out together, tomorrow will be better than today. If we don't, tomorrow is going. Not only is it going to rain, hell, it's going to flood. Okay, so you got all those variables, but I'm an optimist, by nature. We shall see.
John, we got the last question.
Yes. Last question deals with anything else you'd like to address, and contained within that, would you talk a little about potholes progress and police relationship with the community?
Two big issues. With respect to the potholes, when I came in office, the streets were bad. A lot of potholes. I heard a lot about that on the campaign trail. Employees have stepped up. I give them a lot of credit. Give a lot of credit to the employees of Public Works. They've been out there filling the potholes. I said we would assess and address the potholes by the next business day. When I said that on January 4th, a lot of folks said, oh, hell, he done set himself up for failure. Can't do it. Previous mayor didn't do it. I don't know why he's gone there. But let me tell you, those employees, since I've been there, have filled close to, if not more than 25,000 potholes, defined by 5 feet by 5. Instead of 2 feet by 2 feet when I came into office, I changed the definition. I expanded the definition of the potholes. The employees have risen to the occasion. 95% of the time, they have filled those potholes. From the time a call was made or one was identified, 95% of the time by the next business day. I made the pronouncement, but the employees have been out there busting their behinds and getting it done. So on that, as it relates to that program, give 100% of the credit to the employees. They've taken ownership of it, okay, and they are doing an exemplary job. On police community relationships, look, things are sensitive, delicate. It's a delicate balance because we are not separate and apart from what's happening across the country. Now, does Houston have its own issues between HPD and the community that we have to address? I would be naive and foolish to say no, because we do. It's something that's constantly you have to work on. You can never say we're at that optimum point. No, because we're made up of people. Okay, and so we constantly have to work to improve the relationships between the police, law enforcement, and the people in this city, the community, and vice versa. But we should be on the same team. We shouldn't be on opposite ends working against one another. Okay, so we need to work on our relationship. That's why, as mayor, my goal is always to be transparent, to call it as I see it. Okay, and if a police officer does something that's wrong, I have to call it. Okay, if I see where the community person did something wrong and the police are being accused of doing something wrong, I have to call that, even if there are people in the community don't want to hear that. Okay, but what I will not do, I'm not going to try to change the facts to force them into somebody's narrative. Okay, I think you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own set of facts. They are what they are, even if you don't like them. Okay, but I think one of the reasons why we have fared, in a sense, better, if I can use that, than some other cities, is that you try to be transparent, try to be accessible, stay out there with the community, try to get ahead, try to be out there in the community before some flashpoint occurs. I think it's important for people to see you out there trying to meet their needs, trying to improve their neighborhoods before some incident occurs, and then all of a sudden they see you. It's too late then. So you have to establish your credibility beforehand. And that's one of the reasons for, in my case, I choose to still live in the same community in which I was born and reared. I was born and reared in Acres Home community, North Side 44, and I still live on the North Side in Acres community 44. And that's not to, people can say, no, this mayor keeps talking about the 44. This community is similar to communities in Sunnyside, South Park, Hiram Clark, Fifth Ward, Northeast. So I use that as an example, is that, we are all underserved, But I'm just gonna stay there until we move. If we're gonna move together. Okay. So that's on that end. But with social media, if an incident happens in Chicago, it's as if the incident is happening here. New York, social media brings it right here at your fingertips. So we have to constantly work to improve relationships. It's never easy, but the reality is that if we don't, we all lose. And this city needs everyone working together to make it safe and to improve things for all of us. And that's my hope, is that we'll continue to work together.
Thank you, Mayor Turner.
Thank you.
Wonderful interview, and appreciate it, and God bless you. And
thank you, man.
Godspeed as you steer the city into the future.
Hey, man, it's a city with many, many challenges. You know, there are some people who will come up to me and say, man, we feel sorry for you. You got all these challenges, all this stuff has happened, da da da. And I quickly stop them and I say, look, don't feel sorry for me. Number one, I asked for the job. That's number one. And number two, who would want a job without challenges? Okay. And number three is that it's better to be at the table making the decisions than not to be at the table at all. Okay. And then four, you know, I'm like the person, well, four, you know, I grew up in a neighborhood that we've all faced challenges. Okay. Whether you may or not, if you come out the hood, you face some challenges, but we've overcome them. And then I guess five would be, I'm like the player that's on the bench in a tight game. You know, there are some who are on the bench in a tight game, score is close, getting to the final seconds, and they don't want the coach looking at them because they don't want to be put in that pressure situation. So the coach looks down, they look the other way. You know, I think I'm the one, tight game, coach looks down, and quite frankly, I done scooted next to the coach saying, Coach, put me in. I want to play. If you don't play, no rewards. So I want to play. I'm excited about the opportunity. It is the last political office I shall run for. But while I'm here, let me do everything I can to improve the lives of others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're doing a fine job, and thank you very much for your time and
Thanks, man.
informing the community.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Turner.
Sure, no problem.